Hey guys, welcome back to Chaos Core Tech. My name's Garrett, and today I've got another Fusion 360 tutorial for you. And this one I figured we would talk about forms. And this is the sculpting feature within Fusion 360. It's sort of a sculpt, I think they call it that, but it's quite a bit different than just like normal clay sculpting like Sculptress or ZBrush. Now, I think one of the hardest things to grasp about this, especially if you're new to Fusion 360, is the change of environments. And at least it was for me anyway. And so basically, just like when you create a sketch, you go into the sketch environment, and then when you're done creating that, you hit stop sketch, and it takes you back to the model environment, and you can do things with that sketch. The forms are the same way. They take you into the sculpt environment, and then you do things there, and then when you're done, it turns it into a normal object that you can do normal 3D things with in the model environment. So you can see we're actually in the model environment right now. It says right here, and even if we click this, we can't specifically go to the sculpt environment. How we actually get there is this button right here. It is create form, and you might have it here, otherwise it might be down here. So if you click that, it will take you to the sculpt environment, as you can see over here. And if you need to go back to the model environment, you can click here, or you can click finish form. But basically from here we can start messing with these forms. And you can see over here you've got your basic things that they start you out with, and this is where you're going to want to start. I'm actually going to go with a cylinder to begin with, and it'll ask you what plane to put it on. We'll just put it on the ground, and then we'll go here, and I'm just going to drag it out there. Okay, so that part was normal. Now this one's a little bit different. So here we can change the height of the cylinder. That's pretty much the same, but this little slider here will actually change the number of segments, and it might be kind of confusing at first. Just stick with like 3 to 5 to begin with, depending on what you're trying to do, but when you're just going and mess around, that should give you enough freedom. And you can always add more of these rings later. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now maybe I should talk about a little bit of terminology that's used in the 3D modeling space that you may or may not be familiar with. So these right here are called faces. And then the edges that connect them are conveniently called edges. And then the corners of each of those are called vertices. Just be aware that you can grab all sorts of things like this and manipulate. And if you want to grab an entire ring, you can click on one of these edges and then just double click, and it'll grab the entire ring. And just like with normal objects and stuff, you can shift click to get multiple ones. You can also control click. So now if we actually want to start manipulating this, right click and go edit form. And this will actually take you sort of into a new environment. This is where you're actually editing things. And so now when I use these manipulators, I'm actually only affecting the things I'm clicked on. So if I move this over, you'll see that I immediately get a really funky shape, and that's just because I'm pulling these two over. So you can drag them, you can rotate them however you want. You can also use these little bars here to scale. And you don't have to do entire rings at once. You can do, let's just grab this face here, and we can move the face out and manipulate that. And then same thing like with this vertice here. And each of them does kind of their own thing. So those are the 3 things you can manipulate, and it's kind of hard to grasp at first because you know, pulling this vertice out does not behave so exactly like you would think it would to begin with, because it doesn't come out into like a cone shape or a point. It tries to maintain a curvature, and just think of each of these rings and these lines here as trying to maintain a curve, kind of like the spline tool when you're creating sketches. So it takes these vertices and then tries to create those splines with it. So just keep that in mind, and it should make a little bit more sense. And there are all sorts of fun objects. You can do a box. We'll create a box right here. And as you can see, it's a pretty fluffy looking box. But as we drag up these segments, you'll notice that the box gets more boxy because it has more of those curve lines to deal with. So you can drag it clear out and actually get pretty close to a perfect box. But a lot of times you won't need this much detail. So I'm just going to come back over here and change these to 6, because that's a pretty good amount. So I'll hit OK. And then you can just start dragging them out. So just keep in mind that if you hit enter or hit OK, it'll take you out of the edit form menus. So to get back in that, just right click and go edit form, and you're right back in it. And you can click, move things, and then just click other things and keep moving them. And using this, you can actually get some really fun shapes. And if you want to see an example of what you can create with these, I'll put a link up in the corner to some videos I made, the new starters from Pokemon Sun and Moon, using these forms. Now say that you wanted some extra definition. Like here, say I wasn't happy with how this was sloped. So I can click this line that'll just loop select that whole thing, and then I can come over here to modify and insert edge. And now it'll give me an option to insert an edge there. You can do single or double or both, and it'll take you to the other side as well. I just want single, so I'm going to do that. And I'll hit OK. Now watch the geometry when I do this. You'll notice that it changes slightly. That's because there's more detail here. So I can actually take this, and I'm just going to move it over a bit. And then I'm going to take this vertex here and move it up. And you can see how I'm starting to affect the geometry, and how on this side it's a much more gradual slope because there's more space there. But this one has more definition, so it's a much more sudden slope because these two vertices are much closer together. And you can also subdivide individual faces. So if you come up here to modify and click subdivide and then click on a face, it'll just put 4 squares where that 1 square was. And as you can see, that changed the geometry of it quite a bit. So just be aware, and if you need more detail somewhere, subdivide or add another edge, and just try not to overdo it, because the more you have here, the more you're going to have to move, and things can get jumbled up and messy pretty quickly. So now, what if I wanted to combine these together and do some other things to them? I'm done with my forms, and I just want to be done. So I'll click Finish Form, and now you can see that I have some forms. And it'll basically take away the lines and stuff, the edges, because you can't manipulate it from here. So if I right click here, I can't go to edit form because I'm now in the model environment. But things I can do out here, say that I create a sphere, we'll just put it here. I'll just go new body for now. Now if I click this bodies here, you'll notice that this one looks different. These two are solid bodies like you normally work with. This one is not, and the reason for that is that it's not closed. It is open, and so actually this has no thickness, and you can't really join it to things that way. So in order to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and click on this form. I'm going to double click it. It'll take me back into the sculpt environment, and then I can right click, edit form, and now I can actually select that top loop, come up to modify, and fill hole. And that will actually close it in. And it kind of leaves a shadow of what the shape was before. Sometimes that's handy, sometimes it's kind of annoying. But keep in mind there are a couple different ways to fill this. So you can see that it rounded off the top there. You can actually check this to maintain crease, and that way it'll stay flat like it was. Otherwise, you can come up to, like right now I'm at reduced fill star. You can go fill star, and that's a little bit different geometrically. And otherwise you can go collapse. So just mess with these, you'll figure out what you like. I'm going to stick with this because I wanted the geometry I had initially. So then I'll come back to fill hole, hit OK, and now that should be a solid object. I'll go ahead and click Finish Form. And now you can see that it is a normal body. And now I can actually take these and do normal things with them. So for example, I can come up here to combine and say I wanted to subtract these two from this sphere. I can go cut, hit OK, and now you can see that those shapes have been taken out. So you can do normal things with them. I'll hit Control Z real quick. And then you can also do sketches with this. So if I create a sketch and just over this, I just wanted part of that to come out. I can hit L for line. And just create some funky shape here. Hit OK, stop sketch. Now I can bring this up. Hit OK, and you see you can do normal things with it now. You can even fillet and chamfer to your heart's content. So I have obviously just barely scratched on the surface of these, But in its simplest form, this is what forms are. And this video should hopefully just help you get in and start messing with these. And it's pretty intuitive once you kind of know what's going on and you know how to get in and out of the different environments, because that's the trickiest part. So just remember that in the sculpt environment, that's where you're actually modeling and shaping the object. And then when you exit the sculpt environment and you come back to the model environment, that's when you do your normal sketch work and all the things you normally do with your models. Alright guys, well I will leave it at that. I hope you found this video interesting or helpful. And that's it for me. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.